Let's dive into how North Korea is intricately woven into the global economy, from forced labor in China to cyber heists. It's like a multi-layered
Mm-hmm.
infiltration.
Right. We're talking about a regime that, despite its isolation, is practically engineering these covert networks to finance its military agenda, correct?
Exactly. One key aspect is the use of North Korean workers in Chinese factories. Think of seafood processing plants and even cosmetics production, where these workers labor in conditions that are nearly
Yeah,
slave
that's pretty
like.
alarming. And these workers have their wages almost entirely confiscated by the state, right?
Right on. We're seeing reports where up to 70% of their salaries are taken to fund the regime. It's like they're exploited on multiple fronts. The products they help manufacture end up in Western supermarkets and major retailers, sometimes without any direct awareness by those companies.
Mm-hmm. So let me get this straight. These labor practices not only, you know, defy international sanctions, but also create a kind of unfair competitive advantage, as companies using this forced labor can slash costs. Correct?
Absolutely. And it's not isolated to just seafood or textiles. There's even evidence of their role in digital animation, like working on Western television series, all while circumventing global labor regulations.
Yeah, that's truly a game changer in exploiting global supply chains.
Now, shifting gears a bit, there's the infiltration in the tech sector. North Korean operatives impersonating skilled IT professionals using stolen identities have secured remote jobs at major firms in
Uh
the
huh.
US and
And this
Europe.
involves deep fakes and fake LinkedIn profiles, right? Exactly. They even set up what some call laptop farms. It's like coordinating dozens of devices to simulate employees working remotely from within the US.
Yes, and the scale is, it's like staggering. Reports mention tens to hundreds, sometimes even thousands, of these false profiles applied via freelance channels, diverting hundreds of millions of dollars back
That's
to the
truly a
North
modern
Korean
espionage
regime.
twist.
And then we have the notorious cyber unit, the Lazarus Group, whose cyber heists have redefined what we call state sponsored hacking. We're talking about incidents like the attack on Bybit, where roughly $1.5 billion got swiped from a cryptocurrency
Yep, that
platform.
hack really shook the crypto world. It's almost like they're turning cybercrime into a robust revenue stream that not only destabilizes tech companies, but also funnels funds directly into missile programs and nuclear ambitions.
Exactly, and this isn't just about one single breach. We're also looking at attacks tied to ransomware, thefts from digital wallets, even espionage targeting sensitive corporate data.
Right? Which then forces companies to ramp up their cybersecurity measures. But here's a thought. Don't you feel there's a bit of an overemphasis on these hacks overlooking the equally serious internal economic curtailment in North Korea itself?
Fair point. While the global financial crimes grab headlines, domestically, North Korea is experiencing a monumental collapse of its won. The local currency lost nearly half its value, pushing citizens to rely on dollars and yuan in everyday
Yeah, that
transactions.
shift towards de facto dollarization speaks volumes about the regime's economic mismanagement.
Exactly. This devaluation has led to a two-tier economy, where official state wages are in worthless won and real transactions occur in hard currencies. It's like a built-in instability that amplifies social inequality and disenfranchisement.
hmm That imbalance really eats into public trust. And speaking of public trust, there's also rampant corruption. Local officials and border guards are reportedly extorting bribes, sometimes even punishing those who dare to trade in foreign currency in public.
Right, the corruption is so endemic that it's become a survival mechanism. People have to pay for basic services, arrangement of permits, and even fears of arbitrary detention. This level of corruption further debilitates any hope for lawful economic reforms.
Absolutely, it's a vicious cycle.
And let's not forget how deeply these activities feed into the regime's military ambitions. A significant portion of North Korea's GDP, somewhere between 20% to 30%, is channeled into military spending.
That's staggering. So, while the average citizen is suffering, the regime is investing heavily in missiles and armaments, right?
Precisely, the same funds hijacked through forced labor, tech infiltration, and cybercrime end up bolstering missile programs and nuclear tests. It's like every dollar supports a dual narrative: internal repression and external defiance.
Yeah, that creates a dangerous global ripple effect.
The global implications are huge. Economically, these illicit practices, like using forced labor in export chains, disrupt fair trade. Politically, they create tensions. The US pushing against Chinese companies, allegedly benefiting from such practices, for instance.
And it fuels more sanctions and diplomatic headaches. Exactly. And as for the tech sector, companies face financial losses, legal issues, and a serious hit to their reputation when these infiltrative practices are uncovered.
Right, imagine having to repurge your entire workforce just because a few fake profiles slipped through. It's not only costly, but also shakes stakeholder confidence.
Yeah, and it forces an industry wide overhaul in hiring and vetting processes.
What's more, the cyber attacks by Lazarus aren't isolated incidents. They've set off a wave of global cybersecurity enhancements. Organizations and even insurers are now raising premiums due to these prevailing risks.
Mm-hmm. You'll see companies throwing billions more at cybersecurity budgets nowadays. But um, isn't it somewhat ironic that while the regime's tactics are so sophisticated in the digital realm, its domestic monetary policies seem utterly mismanaged?
That's a good observation. It's like they've mastered cyber warfare and covert finance operations abroad, yet their own economy is in free fall. Rumors of redenomination and panic selling in domestic markets highlight a disconnect at home.
Uh huh. It's definitely a paradox.
And as the yuan continues to depreciate, the informal market reaches a point where official currency is almost obsolete. People prefer trading in hard currencies, further undermining state control.
Mm-hmm. That just accelerates the disenfranchisement of the general populace. So overall, we're seeing a regime that exploits global systems, like the tech and supply chain industries, to compensate for its domestic failures, correct?
Exactly. Every element, from forced labor to high stakes cyber theft, all converges to sustain an authoritarian regime that prioritizes military might over citizen welfare.
Yeah, and it's a cycle that perpetuates both external aggression and internal misery.
And let's also consider the international complicity in this cycle. Countries like China and Russia, through lenient enforcement or proximity, end up facilitating these activities, whether it's by providing labor markets or softening controls on trade.
Mm-hmm. That geopolitical angle is a whole can of worms. Can't help but wonder how much these relationships, built on economic necessity and strategic alliances, undermine the global efforts to curb such practices.
Precisely. The global response is fragmented. While the UN sanctions call for repatriation of forced laborers and strict controls on illicit tech hiring, enforcement remains a major challenge, especially with the political maneuvering
I
of
agree,
major
it's a delicate
states.
balance between sanctions and, realpolitik.
And then there's the moral dilemma, too: how to pressure a regime without worsening the plight of an already suffering population. It's ethically complicated.
Right, isolating the regime might hurt the very people who are caught in this cycle. It really is a tangled web, isn't it? On one hand, you have sophisticated cyber operations and covert global labor exploitation. On the other, a deteriorating domestic economy marked by rampant corruption and human suffering.
Yes, and that duality defines the entire situation. The regime's ability to use advanced technology to mask its atrocities abroad while its own people face starvation and uncertainty is chilling.
It's like living two separate realities.
And as a final note, this infiltration of global markets isn't just a series of isolated incidents, it's a systemic, self reinforcing network. Forced labor, tech infiltration, cyber theft, and internal economic collapse all feed into each other.
Right, it's a cycle that keeps on turning. So, to wrap things up, the international community really needs to coordinate on multiple fronts: trade regulations, cybersecurity protocols, and humanitarian efforts, if there's ever to be any hope of breaking this cycle.
Absolutely. Only a comprehensive, multi pronged approach that targets both the economic and security aspects can even begin to address this deeply entrenched problem.
Agreed. Well, That was quite a journey through the labyrinth of North Korea's infiltration into the global economy. It's a stark reminder of how interconnected our world is, even in its darkest corners.
Indeed, it's a call for vigilance and a reminder that these covert networks have far reaching impacts on global security, economics, and human rights. Thanks for the insightful discussion.
Yep, thanks a lot.